What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jason here with the Cowpart Bros. Coming to let you know that the official date has been set for the anniversary episode, and then it will be Thursday, April 21st, episode 53. So mark your calendars down, make sure you check it out. A lot of big things planned. And make sure you continue to get us some messages for the anniversary show. And again, get those to us by Thursday, April the 14th. That way we have time to get it into the actual show. And again, these are just messages to let us know what you thought about the first year of the Cowpart Bros, what you liked, what you didn't like, favorite segments, favorite moments, things like that. Send those to us at cowpartbros@gmail.com or go to cowpartbros.com, click the message link, or call us at 405-877-BROS, or hit the Cowpart Bros pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. You know what it is. Whichever way you want to, hit us up. But remember, when it comes to all things Cowpart Bros, make sure you like us, love us, share us, and follow us. Because if you like us, why wouldn't you?
Welcome to the Cowpart Bros podcast. I'm your host, Terrence, and with me is that co-host, Jason, calling in for the Batcave in Indianapolis. Jason, how are you, my good man?
I'm doing very well, sir. Ready to get into another great episode of Cowpart Bros. Have three fantastic topics, three, I'd say, relevant topics, especially what's going on in the world right now. So I'm ready to get into it, man. Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you for listening. This is episode 46 of the Cowpart Bros podcast. For the uninitiated, Cowpart Bros is the podcaster here. We are a weekly podcast for fans of culture, current events, sports, life, and entertainment.
And as always, we're your hosts, Terrence and Jason, and every single Thursday, we come to you with a brand new episode where we discuss the current events of the day, sports, and the athletes we love.
And even some of the athletes we loathe. No matter the topic, you can expect a brutally honest and fun exchange of snark while learning through the lens of our 30 years of friendship that originated in Calumet Park, Illinois.
And folks, for more Cowpart Bros content, make sure you connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, under the handle Cowpart Bros or Cowpart Bros Podcast for more behind the scenes of the show and just to engage with us every single day. But most importantly, don't forget that the Cowpart Bros Podcast is available to listen and subscribe for free wherever you listen to podcasts.
Like us, love us, share us, follow us. And folks, if you like us, hell, why wouldn't you?
That's right, folks. And like Terrence said, we are the podcast to hear and watch. So make sure you're living it, loving it, and doing it.
All right. We're going to kick off the show with, frankly, just everything that it feels like this is the biggest damn story going on once Vladimir Putin decided to go off the reservation and kick shit off with Ukraine. I'm referencing an article from the Wall Street Journal related to the fact that Ukraine actually invaded. Ukraine was invaded by Russia last week, and it really didn't surprise anybody because I feel like once the State Department said like, "Hey, if your ass over there because of like a contract, find somewhere else because shit's about to get real." Once they said that, I feel like, oh, this doesn't feel avoidable. This feels inevitable, and shit's about to go down. So, their article really talks about, the President Biden, aiming sanctions at Russia. A lot of it's related to finance. Kind of stifling the Russian economy. I know there's been a lot of chat about the value of the ruble. So, and I know there's also been a lot of discussion about, people want to support the Ukrainian people. Is it too little, too late? Right? Because them tanks have already rolled through, right? So, what does this mean long term for the nation Ukraine? Are these countries, these supposed allies within NATO, are they doing enough to, prevent Russia from getting really, aggressive and actually pursuing this not only in Ukraine but other places and things of that nature? So, Jason, what are your thoughts about this current conflict?
So this is something that you mentioned that Russia invaded, or they didn't invade Ukraine until last week, which I believe was the 24th on Thursday. But even part of that, the whole rumblings of Russia versus Ukraine have been in the news probably weeks before that, and it was kind of in the mix for us to be talking about it. But I feel like once the invasion actually happened, it got on our radar. Like, okay, we need to talk about this, and not only just for us. It seems like at least the world, let alone the United States, seems to have an eye on it. You mentioned that there's been a lot of support for either Ukraine when it comes to obviously people with their social media posts, things like that. A lot of protests that are happening, not protests, but a lot of like rallies and demonstrations in support of Ukraine. And I'm going to end this segment later on regarding that particular. But yeah, it's like you said, it's everyone seems to be doing what they can to stifle the Russia. Initially, when I kind of put this on the radar for us to talk about, it was about the sanctions, like you mentioned, from the U.S. going against Russia. And those sanctions, similarly, aren't just coming from us. Also, Switzerland, other places are doing the same thing. But like we always say on the show, the money is what really matters, unfortunately. But with that in mind, that's what we're doing, stifling the Russian money when it comes to cutting off the U.S. connection to all that and all the several banks that have to do with Russia. And so, with that in mind, it's really interesting too because there's always been that. Now, we're obviously not the ones currently at war with Russia, but there's always been kind of that remembrance of Russia being the evil Russia, the bad guy Russia, going back to like the 80s when in the Cold War and stuff like that. Now, obviously, we're not near that anymore, but I always feel like with certain people, it's always there. It's like, oh, here goes Russia being Russia again. You know, good old Vladimir Putin. But one thing I do find interesting is that I've seen also stories of people online talking about I've been treated differently because I'm of Russian heritage, even though I'm from here, because my name is Stoichevsky or something like that. I'm being targeted and treated unfairly and badly just because I have Russian heritage, even though I've never been to Russia myself. I don't agree with the war, don't agree with Putin, but because of that, I'm being treated differently. It's kind of similarly to people who had like the Asian hate crimes because of the coronavirus. Kind of the same thing. So that's unfortunate. And then also too, seeing people taking like certain retailers taking Russian products off of the shelves, most prominently Russian vodka. Things like Stoli or Smirnoff, stuff like that. Although I don't know the point of that because like I was telling people recently, including yourself, I don't know what good that actually does because once you already got it on your shelf, you pretty much already given Russia your money. You
Right.
know?
You've already made the purchase. The shit's on a shelf. Whether you got it for people to actually pick up or you got it in the back, it's bought. Um and so
Yeah.
I kind of feel like a lot of this was kind of a lot of that specifically I should clear up was performative because you know everybody in Russia is not fucking cool with this. You got folks signing up for some shit that they didn't even have a say in. The damn vote. This ain't American Idol. Um, I think we do need to be careful throwing the baby out with the bathwater in that instance because what people are really frustrated and upset with is the leadership, the face of the franchise, so to speak. But behind that franchise, there are millions of people that had nothing to do with this. Um, if Vladimir Putin wasn't so damn obsessed with Ukraine, they would probably be getting fucked up on some sort of other crazy policies within their country. And so it seems it's a little overboard to say, "Oh, well, everything Russia is whack now." I'm like, "Come on, man, come on, man." Um, you know, you you got Eastern Bloc politics in play, and the average American, honestly, people are going to feel bad. Number one, because the, you the size of the Ukrainian army isn't exactly on the same level as the Russian army. So I'm concerned about casualties we don't even know about yet, because the amount of firepower headed towards such a small location, frankly, scares the hell out of me. um, if I'm being honest. And you know, I was I was hearing and I was hearing about the fact that, well, people are trying to flee the country. They're trying to seek sanctuary in other countries like Poland, for example, right?
Yeah, bro. Have you seen the videos of that? Like people like in droves, just walking to these borders in droves, and just kind of like encamping there at the border, trying to get into, like I said, Poland, Hungary, and all these other places. Have you seen those videos, man? It's kind of like a wow moment, and because it's crazy. Because to me, and this is, and forgive me for this analogy, but well, I don't think I have to go into specifics, but you might watch that video. Take those videos and turn them into black and white, and ask yourself, what does this remind you of? Again, use your imagination. I don't think I have to name it, but take those videos, put them in black and white, and they remind you of certain events that happened in the past. And what does that remind you of? That's crazy. Completely crazy. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm like, those
No,
videos
no,
kind of rocked me a little bit, bro. It's crazy.
no. No, I think the biggest thing is that, and I think it's two black dudes. When we're talking about people's humanity, like all those people had a story, man. Everybody that died or is going to walk out of this thing with some debilitating disease because it's now a fucking war torn country, um, or that's been orphaned. You know, this is a story. This is a story of suffering, and you know our tribe gets that as good as anybody else's, man. So I think the idea, I frankly, I haven't watched a lot of the video. That's intentional. um but I can imagine what they're up against, because when when I'm imagining almost like a, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm imagining like a Wolverine's movie type of situation where someone literally is trying to conquer where you live. And so it doesn't surprise me that, number one, especially all the males that were within Ukraine, they are required to serve because it's wartime. And as far as I know, those guys uh, are getting the stiff arm at the border. Um, but women and children obviously being let through. So yeah, it's obviously a little emotional. Um, and there's a lot of angles to this. There's the, okay, are these sanctions enough? Will they do enough soon enough? Is the main thing. Because yeah, those sanctions against Russia will probably hurt. Question is, it will also hurt us. You know, I can't speak about for our average listener what gas is, but where I'm at, it's pushing 410, and the United States could have hit Russia harder with sanctions. The only issue is you got a president who isn't really, and when I say a president, I'm referring to President Biden. You got a president who hasn't had a lot of accomplishments thus far in his first year, hasn't had a lot of key legislation passed. You're in the midterms, and gas is 410. Uh, He's kind of like five on one hand behind your back, because the thing that he probably should do, he can't do because he's going to fuck up the economic situation here in the States. So it's a complicated matter. I was also going to say, we were talking about, I saw this online as well, where people were talking about, yes, these people are refugees, why is it when refugees from African countries, for example, were um, saying, "Hey, please give us shelter. We're coming from a war-torn country." Why were they effectively rejected? So um, there's definitely some complication there as well because people feel like, "Hey, man, why why is it that oh now it's a problem, right?" And now people feeling like, hey, that same level of compassion that people expect your average citizen to have, it wasn't being had for them, and so that is also coloring some of the response to this as well.
Yeah. Well, I do. So I do agree with you that when it comes to the sanctions, like you said, one, is it enough? Is it too late? And then three, it also hurts us. As far as the gas price thing, obviously gas prices have gone up. I think anybody who drives has noticed that. Even here in Indianapolis, I don't know if it's gone up. I know it was 354 the other day. I saw a sign today. It was like 379. So I'm not sure if that's everywhere in the city or whatnot. Um, I think that part of it is kind of, not to go off on a tangent with that, but that's kind of like it's been higher before, so we'll deal with it and get over it. It'll get back to normal. That'll be fine. But I do agree with you that in other ways it's hurting us. It's kind of like what I was mentioning with people taking the vodka off the shelves. You've already given Russia your money, so at this point, you taking it off your shelf is really more hurting you because you're not able to profit off of that. Which in some regard, that may be what they're willing to do. Like, I don't want to profit off of Russia, even though I've already given the money. I'm not trying to profit off of them. So let me take this off the shelf for now and be done and be good. You know. I will say though, I mentioned to you as well that this story, when it comes to Russia Ukraine, it really hits all five of the core tenets of our show. The two biggest ones, of course, being sports and entertainment. So, just from the entertainment side of it, a lot of big events are pulling themselves either away from Russia or they're no longer allowing Russia representation at their event. Probably some of the most notable examples is the Cannes Film Festival. Um, they're basically not allowing any people from the Russia delegation to, represent or be at their event. Other film industry events like the Venice Film Festival will take part in that similar type of thing as well. The Eurovision Song Contest, no representation there. A lot of concerts pulling themselves from Russia, and again, Russia is a huge, you know, uh, platform when it comes to concerts. But still, when they get something, obviously it's a big deal. Imagine Dragons, they're pulling their events out of there. Lewis Tomlinson, things like that as well. Disney, what they decided to do is a lot of their big movie premieres that they had coming up in Russia. Again, keep in mind, Russia obviously isn't the huge, market to say, hey, we're showing this in Russia. But still, the fact that they're pulling their big movie premieres in Russia, Green Day's killing their concert there. Um, the Batman is coming out soon. Not going to be in Russia. Um, Personally, I'm missing out with that, frankly. But that's another topic for another episode.
Let's stop.
Again, not for this episode, sir. But yeah, and not to mention from the sports aspect of it, FIFA, UEFA, they've already did their sections against the Russian teams and stuff like that as well. Also, we're seeing also possible issues in the sports in the United States when it comes to UFC, things like that, how they're going to have to handle their Russian fighters and things like that. Not that the UFC is going to necessarily try to take that away, but when it comes to just visa and travel issues, things like that, that may come into play if they don't want to do business with them or they can't. Also, from the entertainment side, I'm not sure if anybody watches Saturday Night Live anymore, but during their cold open this past Saturday, they actually had the Ukraine Choir of New York perform in solidarity with Ukraine. And I said I was gonna end the segment with this, but not necessarily. But I want to say it now since you kind of brought it up. Obviously, we're showing all sorts of people Saturday Night Live and just regular Joe Schmo online showing their support for the Ukraine. Obviously Ukraine's being invaded with war, so obviously people can empathize with that, and I get it. But what I'm going to say to that is this: anybody on social media or anybody anywhere, you're showing your support for Ukraine. I'm talking to people who live in this country, the United States. But you're showing all your support for Ukraine, people in Ukraine, people you probably don't know, don't share citizenship with. Definitely not saying don't stop supporting them. What I am going to say is all the support and understanding and empathy you're showing for them, make sure you keep all that same energy for the people that live here who are going through their own wars that don't involve tanks and nuclear war weapons and things like that. And if anybody doesn't know what I mean by that, then maybe that's part of the problem. Well, the point is, all that empathy, support, and understanding you're showing people in Ukraine, keep that same energy for the people fighting and battling wars here in this country that don't involve tanks and missiles.
Yeah, I don't think it's a either or thing. I think it's
Well, I'm not saying that either, but what I'm saying is people
hold on. I'm saying I'm presenting it as people should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm not disagreeing with you that maybe there's some domestic issues that people just kind of tuned out. But yeah, it's going to be a real interesting Venn diagram. I'm just like, I wonder how many of these America First supposed motherfuckers are going to be, sending over in favor of sending, donating, canned goods, feminine products, what have you. We'll see. Because I don't want to say that people's heart are in the right place. I definitely want to be clear there. I'm saying typically, some of this fervor, it is sincere. And some of this fervor, like the vodka shit, it's kind of performative. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm not expecting my favorite liquor store to be making a political stand, a real one anyway.
Besides, there's plenty of American-made vodka that's just fine anyway, so we're good. We're not losing out on vodka as a total, but yeah, man. One thing I do want to say, I wanted to bring it up earlier. I do want to point out something. Is that a lot of people don't even know what this is really even about for the whole Ukraine-Russia thing, which could lead into what we were just talking about when it comes to the fake support that But anyway, so one of our listeners is actually a very in-depth social studies history teacher. So shout out to Paul from Illinois. I actually didn't know what this was about really either, about why Russia was making the big thing for Ukraine. And he broke it down pretty good. He's a teacher, so he kind of had to break it down to his students as well. And what he said to me was that basically is that Putin views Ukraine as his own independent country. So the old Soviet mentality is around, and he doesn't want them in NATO since that will put them right on his doorstep. So the natural resources Ukraine has, the West can buy them from them directly as opposed to Russia. And Russia wants that money, so there's your war. I'm sure that's his simplest breakdown of the situation. I'm sure knowing Paul from Illinois, he can probably go well more into that. But just kind of FYI. And really just going back to what we originally about the sanctions. It's all about the money. So Russia wants more of that money, don't want to lose none of it, and they're willing to go to war over it. One thing that was a little disheartening, and I hope it obviously doesn't come true, is that those articles mentioning, I saw several that said the same thing, that the next third world war could become very nuclear. And they're referring to this. Now, granted, I didn't read the article because I didn't see it just before we hopped on and started recording. And I'm sure there's other factors that will have to get involved in that when it comes to actually becoming a world war. But I did see mention of nuclear involvement mentioned prior to today. So obviously for both parties' sakes, Russia and Ukraine, hopefully that's not true. Like I told you before, I do actually know people that live in Ukraine. And they're actually, interestingly enough, they actually came to the United States to visit the States. And they're supposed to go back home, but they were basically are not allowed to do so because they cancel all flights in and out of the Ukraine. So basically, they're kind of, I don't want to say stranded here, but they're kind of stuck here, which could be for the better. They're supposed to be in there, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting knowing that the timing of how things worked out, the way they just have to be out of the country, and now they can't even get back in, which is where they live. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
I imagine that's a crazy situation. Imagine you can't get home, and even if you could get home, would you want to stay there? So, all right. Well, that concludes our first segment on the Ukraine and Russia conflict. Coming up next, we'll be talking about the trendsetter that is one PK Subban. Coming up next on Cow Park Bros.